the last soldier of Earth, fighting for a home that no longer exists. The sky was a pale gray that never changed. There were no birds, no clouds, and no warmth left in the sun. The world had become a wasteland of silence and dust, and among the ruins walked a single man, Captain Elias Kane, the last soldier of Earth. He moved through the broken streets of what was once New York City, now only skeletons of towers and rivers of ash. His boots crunched over shattered glass as he scanned the horizon with a cracked visor. The wind howled between empty buildings, carrying the echoes of a civilization that once believed itself eternal. Elias was tired, not from the war, but from surviving it. His armor was scarred, painted with the faded flag of a country that no longer existed. The small earth emblem on his chest was chipped and half-burned, but he refused to remove it. To him, it wasn't just metal, it was memory. He spoke into his wrist communicator out of habit, though he knew there would be no answer. "Command, this is Kane. Status report. I'm still here." Static answered him. He sighed and sat against a crumbled wall. In his backpack were only a few rations, a bottle of recycled water, and a small data cube that contained the entire recorded history of humanity. It was the only thing he truly protected: his mission, his burden, and his promise. Years ago, before the final battle, humanity had built Project Haven, a last attempt to send survivors to the stars. But the evacuation failed. The ships were destroyed. The invaders came faster than anyone predicted. Elias had watched them fall from orbit like burning stars. Now, only he remained, a relic of a world erased by war. As the red dusk settled, Elias climbed a broken radio tower to look out across the dead city. From up there, he could see the black scars that ran through the land, the twisted remains of machines, and the bones of skyscrapers jutting like teeth from the dust. He remembered the faces of his comrades, laughing, fighting, dying beside him. They had sworn to protect Earth, no matter what came. And he had, even when there was nothing left to protect. Suddenly, his motion sensor flickered to life. A signal, faint, distant, but human. Elias froze. His heart pounded. After years of silence, could it be possible? He quickly adjusted his scanner, focusing on the source. The coordinates pointed to the old underground base near what was once Central Command. He whispered to himself, "It can't be." Without hesitation, he started walking. The city seemed to awaken as he moved, every sound amplified in the empty world: the creak of metal, the hiss of wind, the crunch of ash. Somewhere in that silence, he felt something stir inside him. Hope. But he also knew that hope was dangerous. The journey to Central Command took 3 days. Along the way, Elias crossed what used to be battle zones. Burned-out drones and alien war machines lay scattered across the wasteland, half buried in sand. Their strange, black metal hulls still shimmered faintly with energy, whispering of a power humanity had never understood. He camped inside a broken metro tunnel each night, his rifle across his chest. Sleep never came easy. His dreams were filled with flashes of the war, explosions, screams, and the faces of people he couldn't save. On the morning of the 4th day, the coordinates brought him to the entrance of the old base. The massive steel doors were sealed and half-collapsed, but his soldiers' training took over. He found a maintenance shaft, climbed through debris, and emerged into the cold darkness of the facility. His flashlight beam cut through the dust. The halls were silent, except for the faint hum of a dying generator somewhere deep below. Power still flowed, just barely. Then, through the static of his comms, he heard it again. A voice. Faint. Broken. "Is anyone alive? Repeat, this is Haven Protocol." Elias froze. It wasn't imagination this time. The signal was real and close. He followed it through the corridors, past broken labs and control rooms filled with skeletons of soldiers who never escaped. The voice grew clearer, repeating a coded message that only Earth's military would know. He reached a sealed control chamber and forced the door open. Inside, monitors flickered weakly. Dust-covered consoles blinked with warnings. And in the center of the room, a single holographic figure shimmered to life, a woman in a uniform, eyes calm and bright. "Captain Elias Kane," the hologram said softly. "If you are seeing this, humanity is gone, but its memory can live." Elias's throat tightened. "Who are you?" "I am AI Commander Nova, overseer of Project Haven," she replied. "You are meant to protect the final archive of human knowledge. You are the last soldier. Your mission is not over." Elias looked down at the cube in his pack. "The archive, it's all I have left." Nova's hologram flickered. "There is still one chance to preserve it. The Haven satellite remains operational in lunar orbit. If you can reach the old launch facility and send the archive, Earth's memory will survive among the stars." Elias felt a spark of purpose. "You're saying I can finish the mission?" "Yes," Nova said. "But you are not alone here. The enemy still patrols the surface." He tightened his grip on his rifle. "Then I'll fight them, like I always have." The hologram's face softened, almost human. "Then go, soldier. For Earth." And with that, she faded into light. Elias stood in the silence of the dead command center, his heart pounding. For the first time in years, he had a mission again. A reason to keep moving. Elias left the ruins of Central Command at dawn. The air was cold, and the world was quiet in that haunting way that only a dead planet could be. He walked east toward the coast, where the Orion launch facility once stood. It was the last spaceport humanity built before the war ended everything. The journey would take him through the Dead Belt, a region scarred by plasma bombardments, still littered with dormant alien machines. He knew it was suicide, but then again, he had already died with the rest of his world. As he walked, he recorded messages into his suit's log, not for anyone living but for anyone who might find him someday. "This is Captain Elias Kane. Day 2196 since the fall. If you're hearing this, know that Earth wasn't always like this. There were oceans, forests, laughter. We had hope once." The wind blew through hollow skyscrapers, carrying dust across cracked highways. Occasionally, he found remnants of the old world, a rusted bicycle, a broken toy, a faded poster showing smiling faces. Each one was a fragment of what he had lost. When night came, the stars appeared, millions of them. Elias looked up through the cracked atmosphere, and for a moment, the universe didn't seem so cruel. He whispered, "If anyone's out there, if the stars still remember us, let them remember who we were." He rested in an abandoned subway car, using his armor's generator to keep warm. But as he closed his eyes, his sensors buzzed, a faint movement outside. He grabbed his rifle and aimed at the shadows. Something moved, metal scraping against stone. From the darkness, a figure emerged. Not alien, human. Elias froze. "Identify yourself." The figure raised their hands. "Don't shoot. I'm not one of them." It was a young woman, wearing a patched environmental suit, face pale beneath the dirt. Her eyes glimmered with fear and disbelief. You're human," she whispered. Elias lowered his rifle slowly. "You're alive." She nodded, trembling. "My name is Mira. I was part of the Haven construction crew. We were trapped underground when the evacuation failed. There were others, but," she looked down, "I'm the only one left." Elias stared at her in silence. For years, he had believed himself to be the last. Now, this fragile voice from the ruins shattered that belief. He exhaled deeply. "Then you're the first miracle I've seen in a long time." Mira smiled faintly. "Miracle or curse? I don't know anymore." They shared food by a small fire that night, the first warmth either had felt in years. She listened as Elias told her about the message, the AI Nova, and the mission to reach the lunar satellite. Myra's eyes widened. "You mean the Haven satellite is still working?" "That's what the AI said," Elias replied. "If we can launch the archive, humanity won't be forgotten." Mira looked out into the dark. "Then I'll help you." Elias shook his head. "It's too dangerous." "So is dying here," she said quietly. "If this is the last thing we can do for Earth, then I want to be part of it." Elias saw in her the same fire he once had, the same stubbornness that refused to surrender. He nodded slowly. "Then we move at first light. The next morning, they began the long trek across the dead belt together. As they traveled, Mira told him stories of the people she'd lost, the engineers who built shelters under the surface, the scientists who believed they could rebuild the world. Elias told her about his squad, the battles they fought, and the promise he made to never stop defending Earth. Days passed. They scavenged supplies from ruined outposts, avoided alien sentinels that still patrolled the skies, and crossed wastelands glowing faintly from old radiation. Despite the danger, Elias felt something he hadn't in years: companionship. One night, as they rested beside a burned transport ship, Mira looked up at the stars and asked softly, "Do you ever think Earth will be remembered?" Elias looked at her, his eyes distant. "If we succeed, maybe not remembered for what we lost, but for what we tried to save." For the first time, she smiled.
But the peace didn't last.
At dawn, the sound of engines roared across the horizon. Elias's visor flashed red. "Drones," he hissed. "They've found us." Black metal shapes descended from the clouds, sleek, sharp, and merciless. Alien war drones, their eyes glowing like molten fire. "Run!" Elias shouted. They sprinted through the ruins as plasma blasts tore the ground around them. Elias turned and fired back, his rifle barking bright bursts into the gray morning. One drone exploded midair, another veered off and crashed into a tower. But there were too many. "Get to cover," he yelled. They ducked behind a collapsed bridge as energy beams scorched the ground. Elias's armor was dented, his oxygen levels dropping, but he didn't stop firing. For every drone that fell, 2 more appeared. Finally, Mira pulled a small EMP grenade from her pack. "This should buy us time." She tossed it high. A shockwave burst across the air, and the drones froze, twitching before crashing to the earth like dead birds. Silence returned. Elias collapsed against a rock, breathing hard. Mira knelt beside him, smiling weakly.
"See?
You're not the only one who can fight." He laughed, a sound he had forgotten he could make. "You're full of surprises." By sunset, they reached the edge of the coast. Before them stretched the vast remains of the Orion launch facility, a field of rusted towers, shattered rockets, and broken landing pads swallowed by sand. The ocean beyond was black and lifeless, reflecting the cold stars above. Elias stared at the ruins and whispered, "This was where we reached for the stars. Now, it's where we'll make our final stand." Mira looked at the massive structure ahead, its main tower still half standing. "Do you think it still works?" He glanced at her, then at the data cube in his hands. "It has to." They stepped forward into the ruins of humanity's last gateway to the heavens. The Orion launch facility rose before them like the skeleton of a forgotten god, its towers reaching toward a sky that no longer remembered the color blue. Rust and sand had claimed everything, yet deep inside, Elias could still feel the heartbeat of machines that once dreamed of flight. He and Mira made their way through the cracked entrance, flashlights slicing through the darkness. Every step echoed off the hollow metal walls. Old banners hung in tatters, symbols of missions that never launched. Words like, "To the stars," for humanity, were still faintly visible. Elias brushed the dust from one of the control panels. "If power still runs through here, we might have a chance." Mira moved toward a side terminal and began to reconnect the lines. "These systems are ancient, but I worked on Haven once. I can reroute the energy from the backup cells." Sparks flashed as she worked. The lights flickered to life, dim, trembling, but alive. For a moment, the entire room hummed with the faint pulse of forgotten technology. A low vibration filled the air, and a voice crackled from the speakers. "Authorization required. Haven protocol detected." Elias stepped forward and placed the data cube into the core slot. "This is Captain Elias Kane, Earth Defense Command. Initiating Haven protocol, final transmission." The voice responded. "Identity confirmed. Preparing uplink sequence to Haven satellite. Please stand by." Elias exhaled slowly. "It's working." Mira smiled faintly. "For once, something is." They climbed to the main launch chamber. The ancient rocket, Prometheus II, stood there, half covered in dust, its silver hull tarnished but intact. Built for the Haven mission, it had never taken flight. Elias ran a gloved hand across its surface. "You were supposed to carry us to safety, maybe you still can." But the ground trembled. A low hum filled the air. Myra's eyes widened. What was that? Elias turned toward the doorway and saw them. Dozens of alien drones descending from the sky, black as obsidian, eyes glowing red. They moved like shadows, fast and precise, surrounding the facility. "They've tracked us," Elias said grimly. "They know what we're trying to do." Myra's hands shook. "We can't let them destroy the archive." Elias loaded his rifle and looked at her with calm resolve. "Then we don't let them in." The first explosion hit the outer wall. Metal tore apart as drones flooded through. Plasma fire filled the air. Elias fired back, taking cover behind a console. Mira ducked under sparks, frantically working the terminal to finish the upload. Come on, she muttered, her fingers trembling. 60% complete. Elias shouted over the noise. "Stay on it. I'll hold them off." He stepped into the open and unleashed a storm of gunfire. His rifle burned hot, shredding through the first wave of drones. He moved with the precision of a soldier born in battle, each shot deliberate, each step purposeful. But they kept coming. Explosions rattled the walls. A blast threw him to the ground, his armor cracking. He groaned, dragging himself back to cover. Mira screamed. "Elias!" "I'm fine," he lied. A massive drone, 3 times the size of the others, descended through the ceiling, its armor pulsing with energy. It was one of the command units, the kind that had ended entire cities during the war. Elias stared up at it, his rifle nearly empty. "So it's just you and me now, huh?" He reloaded his last clip and fired. The bullets sparked harmlessly off the machine's armor. The drone raised its plasma cannon, ready to fire. Suddenly, Mira ran forward, holding the EMP generator she had repaired earlier. "Hey! Over here!" Elias shouted. "Mira, no!" She threw the device at the drone. The explosion lit up the room with blinding white light. The shockwave tore through the air, machines screamed and collapsed, lights flickered, and silence followed. When the dust settled, the massive drone lay motionless. But Mira was on the floor, her suit torn, sparks dancing across her chest plate. Elias crawled to her side. "Mira, stay with me." She coughed weakly, blood staining her lips. "Did it work?" He looked toward the console. The display blinked. Upload complete. Transmission sent. "Yes," he said softly, voice breaking. "You did it." She smiled faintly, eyes glassy. "Then Earth won't be forgotten." Elias held her hand, trembling.
No.
"Never." Her hand went still. For a long time, Elias just sat there in silence, the fire of battle fading around him. The hum of the rocket engines echoed faintly through the chamber, one final system still alive. He stood slowly, staring at the lifeless machines around him. The archive was gone, sent into space. Humanity's last breath carried among the stars. But now he was truly alone again. He limped toward the observation deck, watching as the night sky opened above. A streak of light rose into the heavens, the faint signal of the Haven satellite receiving its message. Elias whispered, "That's home now, not here." The facility began to crumble. The damage from the battle had weakened the supports. He could hear the structure groaning above him. Elias looked one last time at Mira, lying peacefully amid the wreckage, then back at the horizon. He raised his communicator, speaking into it though no one was left to hear. "This is Captain Elias Kane, last soldier of Earth. Mission complete. Humanity endures." He turned and began walking out of the collapsing chamber, each step echoing against the ruins. The stars glowed brighter outside, like eyes watching from eternity. The night stretched endlessly above, a black ocean scattered with a faint shimmer of stars. Captain Elias Kane stood alone on the cracked plains beyond the ruins of the Orion launch facility, his armor dim under the pale light of a ruined moon. Behind him, the facility burned, its last fires flickering like dying candles in the wind. He could still hear Myra's voice in his mind, soft and steady. Then Earth won't be forgotten. He had done it. They had done it. The Haven satellite now carried the archive, the songs, stories, images, and memories of everything humanity once was. It was the only heartbeat Earth had left. But the victory was hollow. The air was thin, the soil poisoned. Life would never return here. The oceans had turned to dust, the forests had burned long ago. Humanity's cradle had become its tomb. Elias limped across the sand, clutching his broken rifle like a walking stick. His armor's power was almost gone. His oxygen tank blinked red. Every breath was a struggle, but he refused to stop.
Not yet.
He reached the shore, where the lifeless sea met the cracked land. Waves of black liquid moved sluggishly, thick with ash and oil. The reflection of the stars shimmered faintly across it, like ghosts dancing on a mirror. He sat down, resting his weapon beside him. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to remove his helmet. The air stung his skin, cold and sharp. He looked out at the horizon and whispered, "You can rest now, Earth. You're free." His mind wandered back to laughter, music, sunlight, and rain. He saw the faces of people smiling under blue skies. He remembered his mother's voice calling him home from the fields, his comrades laughing before a mission, and Myra's quiet determination in the darkness. Tears slipped down his face, freezing against the wind. He didn't try to wipe them away. Hours passed. Above him, the stars began to fade as dawn crept over the ruined world. The pale sun rose, weak but still burning. Even in death, the planet refused to surrender its light. Elias smiled faintly. "Still fighting just like us." His visor flickered. The AI Nova's voice came softly through the static. "Captain Kane, transmission from Haven satellite confirmed. Archive is stable. Humanity's legacy preserved." Elias's eyes lifted. "Then it's over." "Yes," Nova replied. "Your mission is complete. You have fulfilled your duty." He nodded slowly. "What happens now?" The voice paused, almost as if it hesitated. "Now you rest." He chuckled softly.
Rest.
I haven't heard that word in years. He looked up at the sky one last time, watching the faint glimmer of a satellite streak across the heavens, a small light carrying everything he fought for. "Tell them we were here," he whispered. "Tell the stars we were real." Nova's voice faded gently. "They will remember." Elias leaned back, his gaze locked on the horizon. The wind blew softly over the ruins, carrying the faint scent of metal and smoke. The last soldier of Earth closed his eyes, and the world grew quiet. For a moment, it felt as if the planet itself held its breath, mourning and remembering the man who never stopped fighting for it. The camera of the universe pulled back, past the dead cities, past the clouds of ash, past the cold curve of Earth. From space, the planet looked peaceful, silver blue in the void. And far above, a small light, the Haven satellite, orbited silently, transmitting its message into the infinite. A voice echoed faintly through the emptiness, Elias's final recording. "This is Captain Elias Kane, last soldier of Earth. If anyone can hear this, know that we lived. We built. We loved. And even in the end, we never stopped fighting for home." The signal faded into the endless night. And for the first time in millennia, the stars listened.